Okay, gang, so here I am in my backyard, and I've moved a bunch of things around in my backyard and built a bunch of things in order that we could have our greenhouse lab class sort of teach and stream remotely while you guys are at your house. I can be working here, and I have this GoPro set up. I'm walking around in my backyard so that I can show you the things I have going on and share with you a little bit of horticulture. So here you see my little chicken setup. We have a coop in the back with 9 hens working to bring us some nice farm fresh eggs. As I move through the yard, I mentioned before I've got a nice pollinator garden. And that pollinator garden has a lot of different herbs in it. I have some lemon thyme and some oregano and then some mint. And you notice that all of the plants that I'm growing in my pollinator garden, I'm just letting go. So when they go to flower, that's fine. It will encourage lots of pollinators to come by and enjoy their nectar from the flowers and to move the pollen around, make my garden space a little bit more productive. I also mentioned that I built about 150 feet of raised beds in my backyard, and I did that right around my kids' established play set. And so in order to save some money, because we always want to repurpose things, I decided that I could use the outside of my kids' playset as one of the walls of the raised bed, and then I wouldn't have to buy extra material. And so I'm panning back and forth right now. You can see I have my brassicas here. Way over on the end is some beautiful kale. And then we have some cauliflower. And we'll talk about that more as we go. But you can see I didn't grow them under floating row covers. And so the imported cabbage worms really got to them. I hand-picked cabbage worms and fed them to my chickens. And so I have that infestation kind of under control. But they were not super happy. My broccoli is here and it's going to flower. I haven't picked it yet. I like the idea that I'm going to let this broccoli, first crop of broccoli, go to flower to encourage some pollinators back here. Got a little garlic, some Brussels sprouts next. I've got to get out here and weed this garden. Here's my celery. It's doing pretty well, nice and green and growing. And then we have some peppers, a bunch of different peppers growing. We roll right into our tomato station. I've got to get out here and tie up some of these tomatoes because they have grown and grown and grown. We've had a lot of storms lately and they've really taken off. And down at the end of my raised bed station, I've got some potatoes. And here they are. They're kind of poking up out of the earth. I need to get some extra compost on these guys. They're doing pretty well, most of them. We've got one plant here that's having some trouble. As you can see, it's wilted. It took some damage from the last storm, perhaps. I'm not sure. I'm going to take a look and see what happened. It looked like I might lose that one plant, but the rest are doing great, as you can see. If I move right behind, and you'll see I've got a trailer set up, and this trailer is where we did our initial greenhouse. So I'm going to reach right on up. Back in March, when I grabbed everything I could from the collaborative and I brought it on out back to my house, this space was a space that was just chock full of all sorts of different seeds that we had planted. I'll turn the light on so you can see a little better. Here are our goldfish. You're doing all right. I've controlled the light situation in here a lot better than at the greenhouse, but you can see I still have some algae buildup on that tank. You'll get in here and clean that out. I did a water change just the other day. This 45-gallon tank is really just set up on a platform, which is a bed at the front of the trailer, and so I needed to reinforce it. So there's all sorts of wood blocks underneath to reinforce it, to make sure I've spread that weight out evenly. I've got safe power over here, a nice power strip tucked up high, so if there was a leak it wouldn't get any water in there. Still got that lucky bamboo growing. So those are the fish. They're doing great. Let me just shut up our trailer. As I'm moving through my backyard again, you can see that I'm letting my grass get kind of high, and it's really not all grass. It's more like a meadow back here. I try to let native plants grow as much as I can, so I've got a lot of native violets and some clover and that sort of stuff that's growing all in my backyard, and it really encourages the pollinators to come on out. And so if you take a real close look at my lawn, I'll get down there, maybe you can see. We've got violet, that's what this is, and these are some clover flowers that are past a little bit, but when they're blooming it's just all full of clover. And I would say there's probably 25% of my lawn or 30% of my lawn is all of that. As we keep moving, you'll see I've got some nice vines running up some trees and around the edges of my property with some Concord grapes. And they're taking over more and more of that wooded area in the back every year. Which is fine, it's a native plant, and boy, I do enjoy grapes. If we keep moving, you'll see that I have a 2-bay composting station that's set up here. It's very similar to the one that I built at the school. And you can see that one side I'm working, the left side, and the right side I'm not working, because I have a lot of chickens. Got a big old heap of chicken manure and wood shavings and that sort of stuff all on in there. We always want to make sure never to use animal manure in your sustainable garden without really taking some time to make sure that you've got all of the ammonia out of it and the parasites have moved through their life cycle, if there are any in there. This is our greenhouse lab annex. This is where we grew a whole bunch of the starts. We've got some sweet potatoes in there now. We've got a couple of the plants that I rescued from the greenhouse lab. We've got the worm farms over in the corner. I'll be resetting those as we go, but this is kind of a busy space. And then out front is a little patio that I just built. It's got a little place for a fire and a little charcoal grill, so we can have some supper out here or work on the garden, that sort of stuff. And so there you have it. That's a kind of a quick tour of what we have going on in the backyard of the house. We've got a bunch of gardens. We've got some pollinator gardens. We've got some chickens, as you can see. Some of them are free range because they know how to get out. Some of them are not. You see where I repurposed an edge of my kids' play set in order to make us a long garden. It's not 8 feet. It's just wrapped like a U around it. But that way I didn't have to buy a whole bunch of lumber. The last thing that I wanted to show you, we do have a lot of berries that grow native blackberries, and they are in season. So we'll be coming out here a little bit later today and picking some blackberries. We have these many different places in the yard. And then if I move on over here, we've got another beautiful berry plant. This one is a high bush blueberry.